But first, let's review the SID method strategy of rules. So we have them handy for potential trades. We have two lists, one for long trades and one for short trades. Here is the checklist for long trades. Make sure your RSI and MACD are set using default values. There's a short video on how to do that in TradingView, and we saw that, right? And then we're looking for an RSI signal where the RSI is below 30 for an oversold condition. Once we have the RSI oversold signal, we can check for the earnings date to make sure we're not within 14 calendar days of earnings report. Next, we look for RSI and MACD to be aligned pointing in this up direction at the same time and for the MACD to have crossed. This entry provides less risk for the trade than just entering when a MACD has not crossed. We'll look at some examples in a moment. Next, we want to set out the stop loss at the lowest low price rounded down between the signal date and the entry date. As an example, if the lowest price was 20.6, we would have a stop loss of 20. If the lowest price was 105.7, the stop loss would be 105. Next, we take profit when the RSI reaches 50. Close the trade and take profit when 50 is reached. You can set an alert in TradingView for RSI 50 so you can take profit when you get the alert. This is the SID Quick Win method checklist for short trades. Make sure your RSI and MACD are set using default values. We're looking for an RSI overbought condition. Once we have the RSI overbought signal, we check for the earnings date to make sure we're not within 14 calendar days. Next, we look for the RSI and MACD to be aligned pointing in the down direction at the same time and for the MACD to have crossed. This entry provides less risk for the trade than entering when the MACD has not crossed. We'll look at some examples in a moment. Next, we want to set the stop loss at the highest high price rounded up between the signal date and the entry date. As an example, if the price was 20.6, we'd have a stop loss of 21. If it was 105.7, we'd have a stop loss of 106. Take profit, again, when the RSI reaches 50, close the trade and take profit at that point. Let's apply the SID Quick Win method checklist of rules to some trades. Here is the checklist of rules for going long, which we went over. And here is an example of a trade where we're going long. We have an oversold signal and we apply the checklist. We're looking for the signal, which we got here. We're looking for the alignment with the MACD. In this case, the MACD is pointing up, RSI pointing up, and the MACD is actually crossing in this case. And then we have the stop loss calculated right here. We have to take profit when RSI reaches 50. Let's take a look at another example. And in this example, we see we have an oversold condition with the green arrow. So we're looking for RSI to point up, and the MACD is pointing up as well here, but it's not crossing, but it is pointing up. So this is our trade entry. We calculate our stop loss here, and then we take profit when RSI hits 50. Now let's take a look at some examples for short trades. This was a short trade list we had earlier. If we take a look at this example, we're looking for an overbought signal, which we got here. And then we take a look at the RSI and MACD. In this case, the MACD is crossing right here. RSI is pointing down right here. And then we have the stop loss calculated up here. And we have to take profit as RSI hits 50. We have another example where we're looking at overbought, and we have the RSI pointing down and the MACD pointing down, but not crossing in this case. And we have the stop loss here, and we have to take profit at RSI 50 there. Now let's look at position sizing. Position size for trading is a key component of risk management. It is used to determine how much money you'll spend on any one trade based on the account size and risk management. Position sizing is used to determine how much money you're going to spend on the trade. And you use to determine the right position size, you'll need to use these parameters in your calculation. You'll have to look at account size. You'll have to look at percentage risk amount. You'll have to look at the risk guideline, which is 0.5 to 2% of the account. And we'll look at the dollar risk amount. How much are you willing to risk in dollars? We'll look at the entry price. What's the entry price of the trade you're doing? We'll look at the stop loss. What's the stop loss? And then ideally, you don't want to have more than 3 to 5 active trades for risk management. And remember, capital preservation is rule number 1. Do not blow out your account. So the account size, we're going to use an example is $5,000. Risk percent per trade, 2%. And a risk amount per trade is $100, which is 2% of the 5,000. So this is the most you're going to lose. That's how much you're going to risk at the most. The risk amount per trade does not equal the dollar position size. So this amount is not the position size, it's the amount you're willing to risk. The risk amount per trade is actually the maximum loss for the trade. This is your maximum loss, $100.